roll call.
Okay, roll call. Our question slash quote of the day. If I call your name, you have to say my favorite part of ASU retreat was, or for those of y'all who were absent for ASU retreat for whatever reason, please tell us what you did. That sounds very weird. Let's go. We're going in order of sort of that you're listed in attendance. So Liz.
Oh, I'm first. Okay. My favorite part of ASU retreat was probably either the s'mores or the 3 random trips down to the beach.
Nice. Next is Sonia.
My favorite part of ASG retreat was the maze and watching people complete it.
Really nice to see. Y'all missed out who were those of y'all who were absent. Tiago.
My favorite part of ASU retreat was either the maze or being part of the team that won all 3 rounds of fishbowl.
Yep.
You know it.
What graceful winners, y'all.
They were there. Yeah, they're very humble.
Next is Jacob.
I think I have 2 favorite parts. My first favorite part was the maze. That was really, really fun. I think it had a great moral of the story. I can really appreciate a good, outcome to a game like that. The second was, I think, just exploring the environment that the camp was. I think it was really unique. There was a lot of cool things to go and find.
Next is Tara.
My favorite part of the retreat was taking a nap in the lunch. I actually did not even communicate because I was so sleep deprived. I close my eyes and I wake up, it's an hour and a half later. That's pretty nice.
Next is Frank.
Yeah, I didn't go, but it was
Where were
because. I mean, I really wanted to go. It sounds like fun, maze and fishbowl, but we had a play. We had a full play, so we did that. It was the last week of shows, and I had to be there.
How'd it go?
It was good. It was fun. Sunday we had the biggest crowd, so it was a good show. But, you came. Thank you for coming.
Nice. They're excused. We'll come to the other people next, but Gabby.
My favorite part of the ASG retreat was the comfort.
No, because I'm stuck for everyone else.
My favorite part was seeing the sunrise.
That's so much like. I was asleep. I wasn't gonna be.
It's too early on a Saturday to wake up. So, yeah. Iman.
I also was not at a retreat, unfortunately. I was innocent, but I went home to take care of my mom who recently had a really big surgery and my grad's last parents.
Very good. Thanks. Glad is she better now? Nice. Excellent to hear. Leo?
My favorite part of ASU retreat would probably just be actually meeting y'all. Y'all were just faces for a really long time. So, yeah.
That's cool. Hopefully some new faces that you'll remember. That's a weird gesture to do. Carmen?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say either the sunrise or being on the other side of the maze.
Most embarrassing moment of my life. Arne?
Yeah, I have 2. I think that was my first time having s'mores.
Oh. What'd you think?
I don't know how I waited for s'mores. I don't know how I waited 20 years to have one. And then we went on a hike we were not supposed to go on. That was pretty fun.
To the graffiti building. Pretty sketch. Yeah.
Did you actually?
We had to crawl under some wire.
Hey, waited until you fell asleep.
Tay?
For
It was an adventure.
And we're here. If anyone needs a ride, just let me know.
Next is Charlie.
I wasn't at a retreat because my parents were here. We went to Half Moon Bay, which was really nice, and it was huge.
Well, you basically were at a retreat,
Yeah.
some nature. But not exactly. You will be in the future. Liv?
My favorite part of retreat was meeting my family and creating the best poster by far.
Oh, yes! No one, oh, come on, there's no one else here for the family. That was the best poster. Some other groups had parallel thinking.
Yeah.
Just talking our ideas. Next is,
So,
Miko?
colors.
Miko?
She was here.
Oh,
She's in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll come back to her. We'll figure out out. Claire?
My favorite part of the retreat was hanging out with everyone, but more importantly, setting up the rope. That was an adventure. That took like an hour and a half.
Oh my god. That was so tough, guys. Actually,
You come out and they're like, look it up and they're like, what do we do? We went through like 5 separate scenarios.
Pull into
Victoria's really good at tying rope.
She thought I worked at a dock. I was like, no, I've never worked at a dock. I'm just really good at Senator at large for tying ropes. Is that what we said? That's so good.
Got some handy folks to help set up events this year, I guess. My favorite part of retreat was, I don't know, there's a lot of things that like stood out to me, but like props to y'all setting it up, thank you so much. And also, you know, sort of like holding the fishbowl and everything. Being there helping. But yeah, like doing that hike was pretty fun. And Sarah.
My favorite part of the history retreat was probably being with everyone and just like seeing everyone bond. I felt like we all got super close after retreat. I'd say an activity though, like I really liked seeing like the bridge from that little lookout. It was really there, Erica and Mercedes. That was really fun. So that was really, and fishbowl. Guys, I'm so glad that I taught you all fishbowl. It's my favorite game.
Can I say mine?
Yes.
I think my favorite part was before we went to bed, everyone was like in their, was like cozied up and the lights were off and it felt like when you're having a sleepover with your cousins and you're all like, guys, we should go to bed, we should go to bed. And besides that, I think just seeing people struggle with the rope thing.
It is 8:14 and roll call.
But yes, but also,
I just forgot to say, I just want all of you to know, Shivani is a bigger devil than you guys ever will know. Like she was at the edge of the cliff. Jonathan and I were having panic attacks looking at her. We were shouting, please come back. She was throwing rocks, so carefree.
Don't do it.
She was just throwing rocks, having fun. And Jonathan and I were like shouting, please come back, we're having panic attacks. Like it's crazy how she was not at all scared. It was like 1,000 feet drop right down. It was,
I'm really glad you're here.
Yay! But everyone who's not here is unfortunate.
I'm going to say one thing that matters.
It is 8:15 and roll call has been called.
Thank you. Please stand for invocation. Sorry. Please just someone read the invocation, please.
May we, the student senate, have the wisdom, patience, and guidance to be responsible representatives. May we be fair in judgments, enlightened in our discussions, and ethical in our actions. Can I get a go wrong?
pause.
Okay. We pause to acknowledge that Santa Clara University sits in the land of the Ohlone and Muwekma Ohlone people who trace their ancestry through the Mission Dolores, Santa Clara, and San Jose. We remember their connection to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, learn, and pray on their traditional homeland. Let us take a moment of silence to pay respect to their elders and to all Ohlone people of the past and present.
Will you be seated?
Where's Sarah?
Well, we'll come back to that. Moving on to the approval of the previous minutes. So, those minutes are long.
Motion
Motion-
approved.
Second.
Second.
The hands.
Okay. Motion from Tara, second from Leo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, previous minutes are approved. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
Can we go back to the?
Yeah. Sarah, look.
He's my fan of the week.
Everyone say thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, guys.
Did you make that?
I'm so honored. No, Nash did all of this.
Oh.
Oh my god, I'm joking. I would never do this to myself. He's so kind to do that. I'm honored.
Okay, approval of today's agenda.
Motion
Second.
approved. Today's agenda.
Second.
Liv, second from Gabby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Today's agenda is approved. We don't have any old business, so we're gonna move on to new business. First thing, I just wanted to go around. We're missing a lot of people. That's not really that okay. But everyone, we'll just start with you and then we'll snake around. Just say kind of like what you've been working on since, yeah.
Because I represent transfer students, commuter students, and international students, I feel like it's very hard to target them specifically. I think there's been like a gap to like communicate to them directly. So I've been reaching out to the commuter unions, the RSOs, etc. Out of all of them, I think ISS has been the most responsive. They are willing. We meet with me next Tuesday to discuss how we can talk further and like collaborate, because I feel like there are a lot of resources that are not being utilized right now, which are already being present. So yeah, that's what it's got to. But it's just been like 5-10 emails every week because they don't really respond that quickly or frequently.
That's good. International Week next week, by the way. So if you can, show up to any of the events.
Yeah, just kind of working on SAC stuff. We were reaching out to different organizations on campus about what they offer to RSOs, like grants or other support along like that. And also working on a reimbursement, or not reimbursement, like a form to combine NOLs for better if they want to combine an NOLs, they don't just want to have individuals doing that.
Going off of that last thing, that's kind of like a quick fix to like the project that I'm about to propose to Victor, to like make the NOLs into one NOL so that like clubs can use all of their funds rather than have some left over in like one NOL. And I think it'll make it easier for SAC, like rather than having to merge them over and over again, just have one. But Victor's out of office right now, so I'm presenting that to him hopefully next week. And then I'm working on the with Sarah for the Enhanced Initiative of Antar. Yeah.
Herb was telling me about this acting, I think that's a really good idea. Sonia?
So I met with a couple people and I was just like kind of learning how to start a project and open letters. So I started working on a project on a tailgate because I'm
ASU member who is like graduated basically, but he. Yeah, Zafir. Yeah.
I'm
Okay, good. Yeah, he's perfect for that. He did a lot of tailgate stuff too, so. That's gonna be really cool.
And then also, if anyone's working on an open letter, I'd love to like learn the process of making one, or even a resolution. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
if anyone needs help, I go on.
Tara?
Hi, I'm meeting with, I forgot his name, Ed Merriman? Yeah, he basically is in charge of the post office, hours, and so, yeah, we are meeting with him to be like, why is it open on weekends, why are the hours the way that they are, why can't it be extended, like, can't we have it open on weekends? And then also I met with a lady named Tina, she's part of the theater, talking about why the theater is so expensive. I learned that the SU theater is actually separate from the university. They don't get funding from the university, so they have to make their own money, that's why.
That's crazy.
I know.
Well, that
So,
makes sense.
huh?
That makes sense, but that's.
Yeah,
Or it makes
there's like
sense whether
certain
it's a big
things that they
building.
work with the university for, but with things like with student-run clubs, the university isn't really a part of that.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. Also, the clubs, it's completely under their jurisdiction to make the tickets free or not. So, that's also one thing I learned when it comes to that stuff. And then also working on the in-house initiative with Sarah. And, yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
For me, I want to start working on like dining issues,
Yeah.
cost issues, quality issues, also laundry. I think just even my own experiences in the past week of the laundry stuff is not a good situation. So we need to review those. Now that I have my staff, my admin buddy, which I think is assistant VP of Ox Service or something like that, I'll I'll reach out to them and have an initial meeting, and through that I'll use that as a segue into let's have a conversation in order to understand why these different operational things are the way they are, and then kind of figure out how we can improve upon them. And then in addition to that, just in our committee meetings, just been brainstorming different operational issues like the post office and stuff like that. So
I think you'll like it.
yeah,
You're
I'm
really
really looking
good.
forward to it. Yeah, it's a good jumping off point because now I feel more confident. Okay, I know who to reach out to,
Yeah.
and that they're open to that, and not just kind of like cold calling somebody, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Liz?
I think like one personal project that I'm working on that hopefully will turn into like a resolution, possibly like next quarter, is like creating like better safety solutions like within like 3 blocks off of campus. Because like one thing that I was kind of thinking of, and that's why like the admin buddy I got paired up with is like perfect, director of campus safety, and like I think the board that I got involved with, CEC, is also perfect because it has to do with community engagement, is that a lot of students live on like Santa Clara owned property like off of campus, or Santa Clara affiliated property off of campus, or for example a lot of students live in the university villas across the street and they have to cross the street in order to get there, and like there's a bus stop and it's an open campus, so like anyone can like kind of go around there. And I've had multiple like instances of like friends telling me who like live like off of campus, like a block or 2 off of campus or in the villas, of like scary things that have happened there. So one thing that I'm kind of hoping will happen is that possibly like if campus safety can't necessarily patrol those areas, if we could potentially put in place some sort of blue light system like we have on campus for those areas where a lot of Santa Clara students happen to live that don't happen to be like on the main part of campus, kind of.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
I don't know if it's related, but I just got to know that past week that for any student living off campus, even if the land is not like affiliated with Santa Clara or is owned by any relationship with Santa Clara, if there's a noise complaint or a call from the cops and they are students, they can get fined by the Santa Clara University directly, even though like it's a fine both sides. The police can fine them and Santa Clara University can fine them. I don't know why that is a thing, but Office of Student Life has full control over that because it's in the student handbook. So if that can be happening, then I'm sure that there can be benefits as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I touched on it a little bit at retreat, but but yeah, basically just like I feel like there's sort of a double standard as to like you're saying, like students off campus can get fined by the university because they're like representing the university, they're Santa Clara students. But at the same time, like it's like I feel like there's a lack of like support from the university for students off campus. So I feel like it's like you can't. It's like pick one basically. So yeah, I think that's I'm excited to see where that goes for sure.
And the facts that you guys brought up are really interesting. I didn't know of this before, so I'll definitely use it in my case.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think you definitely. I think that would. I think that'd be a good argument to make.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So as Sarah mentioned, part of UVO is working on expanding the post office for working hours. So like either they'll open up during the weekends or expand the hours that they already have. That's something that I want to tackle. I don't know, like a solution or something, but that's something that I'm part of that I want to change or implement starting like next quarter. I don't know if that's too ambitious, but that's something that I would like for the post office to like have more flexible hours starting next quarter. In terms of like individual projects, for this year, I know that during retreat we mentioned maybe having a housing committee. Along those lines, one project that I have for this year is allowing students, especially off-campus students who rely on their universities, whether they're like in villas or in neighborhood units, more flexibility when it comes to moving out times and dates. As of now, even like within the dormitories is very limited. And for example, exams or having to move out and factors like, for example, if you're out of state, it might be harder for you to move your things out. Those things aren't taken into account. And it's just very like you have to be by this date, like this hour, unless like, the house or wherever it is like it's long. So I would like to change that and work with housing via either my admin buddy or on my own and personally reach out to the housing.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, both of those that you bring are really good. I think the housing thing is one thing that I've been thinking about a lot too recently because like. I don't know, you just think about like the turnaround. And then the extension that you get is like
a day.
Hardly, yeah, it's like 12 hours.
12
or
hours,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the tabling issue outside of the library. So I'm talking with people right now before I kind of contact others. And it's funny, my admin buddies, the Dean of Engineering, so Dr. Cates, and I've already been trying to get in contact with him. He's a remarkably busy man, and sometimes doesn't show up to office hours, so I'm doing my best there, but hopefully I can get in touch with this now.
That's good.
So a few weeks ago, myself, Tara, and Mercedes went and delivered 10 units of Narcan to each sorority and fraternity. Shout out the Wellness Center in TAG. So super important now that they have them, but now we're working on getting somebody to come talk. Like they did last week, which I think is really important. They should know how to use it. Like having Narcan is the first step, but knowing how to use it is the second. Claire, Mercedes, and I are meeting to do a Fries for Fries event, so the Fries need consent for fries outside somewhere tabling. And then meeting with all the sororities, DEI, VPs or directors, or an adjacent position, as well as Liv, Tay, and Grace to talk about kind of the standard of DEI within sororities. And hopefully that will happen within the next week or so.
Everyone come to our Fries event. I'll let you know when and where it is.
Sorry, what was the question?
No, that's okay.
After the open letter passed, I met with Jeannie, and then I also had a very long meeting with Mo, because there was a lot of miscommunication going around. And then I also met with one of the faculty members on GCIN, which is the faculty PSU, from more miscommunication going on between DSU and GCIN.
And then I also got in touch with Antika and Tiago to make a team for the resolution and have an entire plan for next quarter.
Awesome. I'm excited. Yeah, excited to see what it goes.
I'm also working with Charlie, Ted, and Grace on making competitive more inclusive. Very excited for that. The resource page should be going out. Matthew, I think beginning of next quarter.
Yeah, maybe soon next quarter.
So that's good. And then I'm really excited to get the name of the MCC, also my admin buddy, to kind of figure out where this anti-black specifically we can do about it.
Excited. That'll be good. Yeah.
So I'm working today on a resolution. Bika and I are also trying to target the lack of awareness around socioeconomic disparity on campus. And so we're working on an open letter both addressing that issue, but also pointing to a few really important resources that a lot of students who are struggling socioeconomically don't seem to be aware of. And then after that, we're going to be working on a resolution more focused on finding ways of reducing those daily prices, like the Scantron and printing. Jacob, maybe we chat about laundry, and I know I chatted with Tara about that as well. But yeah, kind of just trying to both make sure that people are really aware that that's a thing, but also get actionable solutions. And beyond that, I've kind of just been meeting with administrators just to start building a network that I can follow on or use later on if I need to.
Yeah, totally. Love it. Joseph?
Yeah, my main thing has really been in getting input regarding like what we feel about Santa Clara Community Expansion Institution. I know that is kind of on pause right now, like kind of still discussing with the MCC and like how to go about that. But yeah, I think generally like I just been having a lot of feedback on a lot of different things regarding it. Unfortunately, a lot of like negative sentiments around it. So I want to continue doing that and possibly like I know like you're still talking with the MCC, but like still have like a conversation with the Latina Student Union, just because they are the ones who like mainly like predominantly target like those like the Latino population on campus. So I really want to get in contact with them and kind of like see what they've been seeing and hearing, because I know especially they have a lot of contact with like the community for the Hispanic Studies institution. You continue talks with Professor Hunter. I think that's been really amazing. I also have been talking to a couple of commuter students just generally, especially within the Lead Scholar program, because we have a lot of like first years for our commuter this year. And so I want to make sure like they feel included in the conversation too, because they are like just starting out in this in like tech and everything. So I think the next step would really be like talking to housing, like the residents life, and like making sure that they know with the hall that commuter students don't have full access to the residence hall. So I feel like definitely like that could be like a resolution. But I first want to see kind of how like what their stance in it, because if they're just like very willing to like just kind of like do like that manual change or something like that, then it won't be necessary. But
Oh, I see.
yeah, I definitely still want to like see how they feel about it, and then from there like see what we can do.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let me know if you need me. Thank you. Carmen?
Like a couple things. One thing was definitely just trying to reach out and make like more points of contact, especially since I'm like the senator for athletic relations. So like the admin buddies couldn't come at a better time because I was planning to reach out to the director anyway, Heather Owen, and then there's also a student athlete advisory committee, and so reaching out to them and getting those points of contact. Another thing was I brought it up at retreat, was trying to come up with a housing committee. Thank you, Sarah, for giving the names of those people that said they wanted to be involved. And I just asked that like after this, can you like give me your phone numbers, because I don't have everyone's phone numbers, and that way I can just set up a group chat, and I feel like that would be easier to schedule a meeting for that and try to figure that out. I was looking into seeing if there was something like that that already existed, because I was told there was like some sort of team, like student leadership within housing. But everything I've seen for that so far is just like res life sort of things. So I think it's going to be more like building it from the ground up than I originally thought. But either way, I still think this is something something that's definitely worth it, especially with all the issues of transparency I've been hearing about the projects people have been wanting to do, so yeah.
Awesome. Also, just on that, I don't know if I've ever like said this before, but if you go into you don't have to do it right now, but in our drive, in the Senate folder, there's a folder that says general, and in there's a roster and it has everyone's phone number, or most people's phone number. I actually need to update it, which I was thinking of. But yeah. So if you guys ever need to like get in touch with each other, that's probably like the quickest and easiest way to go about it. But yeah. That's really exciting, guys. I think it's really cool that I feel like we have a lot of like variety in things that we're working on. So just, you know, if you guys are interested in each other's projects, reach out to each other. If you need my help, reach out to me, just text me. I'm always available to you guys. Yeah, on my end, I've been focusing, my immediate focus the last week or so has been the election statement. And then also still working on medical embassy reform, trying to figure out if that's going to be like, if a resolution is worth the time, because we also have like admin on board. But yeah, Mercedes and I are working on that. And of course the Fries event, very important. Yeah, I guess that's off the top of my head what I've been doing. But yeah, thanks guys. Let me know if you need anything.
Should I read this one?
Yeah.
So, our committee worked on our bylaw change. Here. Oh, also Claire, do you know if it's bylaw change number 2?
I think it's it actually might be 4. Let me check. It's 3.
So we're just presenting today, so I'll just like slide through it. This is just like what's in the bylaws for archiving committee and what we're supposed to be doing. So highlighted in yellow is kind of what we want to change, and the only thing we've done, we haven't added anything, we've just removed things. So it's just going to be highlighted in yellow, and it's going to be striped blue. I'll just like give you guys like a brief rundown on why we did each thing. So this first one, we all decided that we do not need a hard copy of all the resolutions and things that we archive, rather it's going to be electronic, considering the modernity of everything. It's too clunky to have it all on paper. This one we really talked in depth about. We just felt as though that access to the archive should be more of a universal thing. We don't think that it should just be like archiving committee can see like what past resolutions are, because I think that's really helpful for like senators when they're starting to work on projects. So that's why we decided to just like remove that, and the same with this one, go here in the end. This one is just unapplicable. We don't do blog posts anymore, I guess. I don't think there's like a form to like be appointed. We just like appoint people based on like interviews and such. There's like a different process for that now. Bailey did not know what a governing document upload is, which is understandable. No one knows what that is. I don't even think like the past like 5 chief justices know what it is. So like no diss on Bailey. Anything to say?
My guess is it's essentially a log of changes that are made to the Constitution bylaws, but Google Docs kind of does that for you. So I don't think it's particularly helpful to have at this point.
Yeah. This one goes same with what I said about the executive branch appointment forms. We just don't have appointment forms. Oh, this one, I guess we can maybe talk about a little bit. Quarterly attendance records. So I know like Savani takes roll. Do we think it's worth having like records from the quarter present for like archiving purposes. My team and I kind of like discussed and we just like were indifferent.
For answering that, when you say the archive being universally open, do you mean to all of ASG or to the entire student?
Within ASG.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I don't see value.
Value
Don't
in-
see value in keeping records.
Like attendance records?
Yeah.
I don't know, say if Savani's already, wait, sorry.
Sorry, I know you go, you go. No, it's okay.
If Savani's already taking it, I kind of don't see a reason why we would exclude it from the archives.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's kind of.
Yeah.
Wait, so when you say like it wouldn't be there, since it's already in the minutes, that would that just have to be deleted before it's like archived, or how would that work? Because I feel like if it's like doing an extra step to delete it, then just leave it.
I
don't know.
Well, last year I don't know if you guys, last year there was like an actual like sheet that showed like, yeah, it was pretty much, yeah, it was like an actual sheet where it showed like when people were present and
We have
like,
that too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm
I
saying.
think it's like separate, there's one like separate from the first page of the minutes as well. So I think they're talking about that one.
So then it would still be in the minutes, but we won't do the separate thing?
Yeah.
Because then that's why, what's the point?
Yeah, that was kind of my.
Okay, yeah.
I would say, for me, like, I think I could see a situation in which like future Senate chairs would find it helpful to like see how past attendance has been, because like that, to be honest, like I feel like that's something that like I've been struggling with this quarter, and like to have sort of some sort of sense of like how it's been in the past, I think that like I would find it helpful, and I think other people would too. But it's also like, I mean, it's not like the biggest thing in the world that like getting rid of the chair.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, as long as y'all have it, it doesn't really matter to me. I think you guys are just, we don't need to have it the most.
Yeah.
But mainly different.
Okay, cool. Anyone else have comments on that? Okay, I mean, yeah, I think for the most part, it seems like it doesn't hurt to have and it could benefit everyone, so I'll just, thank you. We'll keep them. Thank you guys for your feedback. Okay, next was legislative branch, yeah, those we don't use anymore. Yeah, so those two we don't, those, that was pretty much it. We'll vote on this next week. Yeah, it's fairly simple, just removing things.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, but I'll put it in the recap email and email next week. So if you guys could maybe just at least take a look at it, you know, literally, I think it'll take like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Before next Thursday, that'd be great. And then if you do have any like questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave comments.
Oh, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
just leave a comment. Do you have a sentence sponsor?
MASH. Does that count?
Yes, okay, then that's good. Okay, cool. Great. Okay. Basically, so, okay. This is the same exact statement that we have been seeing. It has not, it's been, Airtel 9 posted it on their Instagram, but it has not been sent out SCU-wide. For a variety of reasons, we can get into that later, all of which makes sense, but could be resolved by simply just voting on this, and potentially making it an open letter. So, yeah, I think the thought process was just like, we can talk about it. If you, there was, you guys did a really good job leaving comments and stuff. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot, and I think that it helped make the statement a lot stronger and more specific, and I think the language is more, like there were certain things that are just like more specific now, which I think is helpful. Oh, and I changed the that because it's
add more resources, I'd be down to do that. Or if you think that that's enough and that makes it more direct for people, that I'm up to any suggestion on that.
I think you should add the wellness center in there for the survivor applicant. Given the nature of
Yeah.
prison.
And we just heard about the U-Will today.
Sorry?
I think the U-Will numbers will be different, what we heard today.
I think that's, was it the U-Will, it was the 24/7,
Yeah, it is.
24/7 number.
Yeah. I'll research that and I'll put anything from CAPS, Cowell, Wellness Center.
How do we feel in general about sort of transitioning this away from like an executive statement into like something, a piece of legislation?
Wait, actually, can I say something?
Yeah.
I think you talked on this, but mostly why we're doing this is because up until now it was a statement by me and Claire, and we couldn't really do much with it because it technically didn't have the ASG vote, so it couldn't represent all of the ASG voice. So that's why me and Claire wanted to turn it into open letter to get that like final stamp so we can spread it out to more people having the ASG name on it. But I understand if people feel uncomfortable with that, and that's why.
We basically, like, it just got to the point where I think the reason we wanted to make it a statement was that we could get it out faster, but then it got to the point where, like,
Yeah, we couldn't
We couldn't?
post about it on the ASG Instagram, and we couldn't send an email to undergrad because it wasn't voted on by
well,
ASG.
we could put it in our, like, ASG email as a statement from you and I, but not, like, as a standalone thing itself.
Yeah.
Because then that sets the precedent of essentially, like, anyone could use that as an argument for like posting basically whatever they want, and like obviously we don't want that. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on turning this into, yeah, those?
I'm on
So, it's up to you guys. I would advise if you wanted to vote on it today, which I think would be ideal, then we could just suspend the standing rules and vote today. But yeah, Tiana.
I was gonna say the same thing. I think we came to a consensus last time that the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Like also we collectively had a really good opportunity to edit it and make sure that we like felt pretty decent about it, even if it was originally going to come from you too. So I'd rather vote on it today.
I can also, my open letter lasts for 2 years ago now. 2 years ago, the woman, so I wrote an open letter 2 years ago that was voted on, or was presented and voted on the same day. And so the standing rules were suspended. And something that we did was we went through the open letters collective and just went through it paragraph by paragraph, line by line. And it helped to have like people read it out loud so we can kind of just like better understand what's being said in the letter, and then discuss it as a group. It's gonna take some time, and I understand that it's late, but I do think it's very important and that it should be. I personally do think that it should be sent out ASAP. It's been over a week since the election now, so.
What are the arguments against sending it out? Like why would
Before voting on it?
Oh, no, just like in general.
Some people might, like, I mean, some people like, what?
I think some people might see it as divisive or creating more harm.
Yeah, some people just might, like, by being an ASG and like if it passes, no matter what you think about like him being the president, you're attached to like this thing. Okay. So, yeah, this.
I think like 3 things on this. I think the first thing is when it comes to timeliness of sending anything out, I think the more we wait on sending any sort of statement on this, the more like passe it kind of becomes, like the election will be kind of like further in the past kind of. Secondly, and this is coming from somebody who is also upset like a lot of people in ASG about the election results and stuff like that. I do think that there is a mixture of political identities in Santa Clara. So I think compared to our first draft of this letter, the second draft I think is a lot more, I think it comes a lot less from a place of attack on certain groups of people and a lot more on a place of some people are struggling in our community who do not agree with the election results, and you should empathize with them because they feel like certain rights of their own are gonna be attacked, which I think is a very diplomatic and a very smart way of presenting this, because again, this is coming from ASG, and there might be some people in the room who might not be comfortable having something attached to their name that might be very strongly towards one stance, kind of. Especially considering we are dealing with a school that has a very diverse political climate, and this is coming from somebody who is also upset about the election results, so this isn't coming from any sort of disagreeing with anything in the letter or anything. This is coming from more like a diplomatic sort of stance. And the third point I kind of wanted to bring up was, I think it was kind of smart how you brought up in the end that this was written by both you, Claire, and also you, Erda. Because again, even though I personally would feel comfortable having something like this sent out that might be associated with me, I don't think necessarily everyone on ASG might be comfortable with that. So I think definitely having something that's timely, something that says that what we believe while still being diplomatic to other people that might not agree with us, and also having something that kind of shows who kind of wrote the letter, for the members of ASG who might not feel comfortable with it, are all three very smart things, and I highly applaud you guys for coming along so far with this letter, so thank you.
Do you need a motion to make it into an ASU-wide thing, or can I just motion to vote right away?
If you want a motion, well, we have to suspend the state meeting. But I think we want to.
Do we want to go through and read the letter before we vote?
I think it's.
I feel like we already had a chance to do that in one of our edits already, so maybe just the last part that we had the resources available, we can go through that. But I think the rest of the things are pretty solidified in the past week.
I want to do a show of hands. I just want to make sure everyone feels okay. So raise your hand if, do you have a question?
Yeah, can I just make some remarks real quick?
Yeah, of
on the
course.
letter? Okay. I definitely think that producing a resolution on this to Santa Clara community would be beneficial. But I don't know if this specific version of it accomplishes, building unity within the Santa Clara community. Particularly, you specifically point out that the president-elect is a Republican, which everything in here is factually true. But I think this specific pointer indicates that all Republicans are this way. The things that are used, which are factually true to describe the president-elect, but don't accurately describe Republicans or conservatives in general.
Is it, wait, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with the first, are you talking about?
Yeah, very first line.
Okay.
Obviously, yes, he does represent the party, but he does not represent, individual conservatives who we have on campus. And I think that this letter, I think, although it doesn't intend to create division, it kind of reads that way. So I think we kind of need to step back a little bit and put out a message that supports those who are hurting, because that's definitely a real thing. And I think we need to make sure it's known that there's resources on campus for students who do need support. But I think we also need to move forward as a unified student body and not alienate those on campus, even though they might be the minority.
I have a lot of respect for you for speaking up about this. In my opinion, if calling Donald Trump a Republican nominee is going to create more division, that says way more about, does that make sense? He is the Republican nominee. Whether or not you align, or not even you, but conservatives on this campus align with that definition of Republican, the Republican Party nominated and voted him into the presidency. He is
kind of think that should stay, personally.
I also think it's like informing people, like if someone hadn't heard anything about the elections, wasn't involved, and if they're like, which party won, I think it's kind of like factual, like the Republican Party won.
Exactly, and it's important too because we talk about having a Republican majority across all branches later on in this. And so we have to establish that he is the Republican candidate because otherwise that wouldn't be nearly as important in this.
I would actually like to ask about the phrasing of that, just because I think originally I had written right wing, which that probably needs to be changed. But I do think that, I don't know, I would like to hear people's thoughts on like the wording of that. A potential alternative would be conservative majority, which is also more applicable to the Supreme Court. So,
I mean, it's not wrong. The people who were voted into the legislative branches of the government were voted in by people that identified with the Republican Party. So whatever choices and whatever laws and court decisions they passed, those are decisions that people thought people supported and people voted for. So it's not, you're not saying anything wrong with saying it's in the Republican majority. And many of those people aligned with very dehumanizing morals, and that's very unfortunate, but it is what it is, so.
I think if you're like super worried about the Supreme Court thing, you could always do like Republican and Republican appointed majority respectively, but I think that's wordy. I'd rather just leave it as it is.
Yeah.
I also think the principle that this has already been a statement on not ASG but President VP, if we're changing it, it might lose its strength in the fact that we're going in and changing things when we've all already looked at it and all edited it already. Like, I know that we haven't officially said this is ASG, but we kind of have, and everyone already voted to say that we would do this, and I think we might, I know nobody else is really gonna notice a word change or something, but it's the principle that I think this is a really, really strong letter, and everything in it should be said and should be like backed up, and we've already done it.
that's what about, just like curiosity, what about like the potential of adding more resources at the end? Is that like different?
Yeah, I would think that's different. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh no, they added more resources.
Take care of it.
Yeah.
Did you have your?
Oh, no, I was just, it's okay. So do we need to make it into something that is wait for all, like we all said it? Or are you guys gonna do that on your own after you talk?
Or are we like listing specific senators who support this, because we were talking about whether or not.
Because didn't you say we're gonna send it out as like a whole body, not just.
Just like any, like open letter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, motion to vote.
Motion to
Suspend this.
Second.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh,
Wait, Bailey.
Okay, that has to go first, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Bailey.
Okay, as someone who's not on Senate, just like a person who receives these emails, and as a CF who can tell you that residents do not read these emails, I'm a little concerned with the order in which we are addressing our community. I think that all of this is important, like the things we list are factually correct. He's a convicted felon, he is a sexual abuser, but as someone who's reading, as like a student reading this email, the first like half of this letter reads as political, and then it subverts to being in solidarity with the community and offering resources. And I'm gonna tell you right now, from what I've seen in my residence hall and what I've heard from others, we are people who think this and agree with the first half of being like this. We are not we are like a very scarce, we're the majority on this campus, but not by that much. There have been increasing incidents of harassment for students of color on campus, for undocumented students. These are cases that have gone up, and I think it's important that we as a student government
emphasize first and foremost solidarity with one another before we get into the litany of, the litany of charges against our president-elect. Because people, I'm gonna be so honest, this is really long, and the kids are gonna stop reading after the first paragraph.
So which, are you saying the R10 paragraph should be one up? Or is
I
there a
think
specific
that
paragraph?
the way you guys start the second page, students, faculty, and staff will inevitably face negative outcomes of this election. I think that we go there first before we get into like why will students, staff, faculty, and staff experience things like this? Oh, because the president is a convicted felon, because he is a sexual abuser. And these things are important, and just kind of grounding it first and foremost in the impact that it will have on this campus and on this community.
Thank you, by the way, thank you. I think the fact that there have been increasing incidents, with people of color and because of the election just gives us more reason for us to send this out. That's just a point that I want to make. Because it says, let us be clear, such messages have no place at Santa Clara University. But I agree with what she says. I feel like you should. I'm trying to see. Maybe the third paragraph should be before the second. The third should be in between the first and second. That's, no, why not?
Well, not my call.
Oh, that's, okay, sorry. I'm just like seeing, like, if that's a change we want to make to address this.
Ryan?
It's not about that, but just
Okay.
next time. Yeah.
Sorry. I think I definitely agree. I think that that's actually like a very good point that you bring up of like, you know, if people just read the first paragraph and then like skim the rest. I would say that the main message we want to get across is like solidarity as opposed to like the political facts, which are also like important, but maybe like the solidarity is what we want to like emphasize more, like more of like the goal. I don't think our goal is like the political facts, but more just like solidarity and like we see you and hear you. I do think that like you bring up a good point of like moving stuff or not even moving stuff around, but just like changing it. So I do think that's worth considering. But I also do want it to be like as best as possible. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think kind of to like second what she said, growing, Bea.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Growing up in like a politically mixed family, I very much know like the arguments of both sides kind of here, which I think kind of benefits kind of like my like stances and like diplomacy on like all this sort of stuff. When it comes to the second paragraph, even though while us people who decided to vote for Kamala or who are Democrat might believe this sort of stuff, knowing the people that I know that voted for Trump, they don't believe a lot of the things in the second paragraph are true. And I think a lot of them, if you're trying to get at the Trump supporters, kind of like tell them to be empathetic, kind of, to like people who might not have voted for Trump, I think most likely how a lot of them will react, even though we might not agree with it personally, how they will realistically probably react is they'll look at the second paragraph, roll their eyes, and probably not want to read the rest of this letter, because they'll get mad at the second paragraph, because they won't believe in what the second paragraph says. So I think even though while we might want to like present certain like facts and stuff like that, that we might believe that are true, I think if we want to kind of like get like a sort of like empathize with other people sort of argument, I think focusing more on like he might be harming certain minority groups and less like facts that like are like debatable on the other side, kind of. If you know what I mean, kind of.
Yes, I think.
I kind of see your point, but at the same time, just the statement being posted on the Pres MVP account has gotten so much traction. Graduate students, people that have already graduated have read it. And so if people want to read it, they're going to read it. People don't want to read it, one paragraph, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But something that just, I guess doesn't make sense in my head is if we moved our intent paragraph before people, I guess the second paragraph is to let people know, like, this is why people might be struggling, this is the information, this is why he's a bad person and will be a bad president, and then being like, and then saying, we don't say this to create divisiveness, but to bring awareness, because if I just say the first one, it will just seem like one of those statements that like media-trained administration puts out, where it's just like, we all want unity and family, where that's not what I'm trying to say. Like, just openly, I'm trying to say he's a bad person. I want that to be
I second that. I also think, actually, wait, let me get some.
I think something that's really important to clarify is that this isn't what we believe to be true, this is fact. And that was part of what we did when we were writing this paragraph. And that's part of why we have links and part of why we took out other pieces of language from it. There's no denying any of this. Like, every single part of this comes from his website, comes from his own mouth. He has directly expressed his intent to do this. And the things that we list out about it, every part of it has to do with targeting some marginalized group or another. Whether it's being a sexual abuser, whether it's listing out all of those groups that he wants to target, whether it's talking about how he's coming for higher education and what that means for different socioeconomic groups. I'm with you, Erica. I think we, like, as much as it is important to like foster community, part of fostering community is making sure that we are making clear that we are protecting those who are most vulnerable, and that is the point of this paragraph, is to make clear that we are very aware of what it is that is about to go on this campus, what is already starting to go on this campus, and what will only continue to grow on this campus. And to weaken our statement because we worry about hurting the feelings of those who are going to be the perpetrators of this very same behavior goes completely, it feels like the very antithesis of what this entire message is about.
Yeah, I think, I guess I'd like to add that, you know, we are the student senate, and so we are technically supposed to be representative of the student body. However, I don't think that mandates us to represent, or have, I don't think that we should feel like we have an obligation to represent people who don't believe in like the fundamental rights of other people. So if that's a concern of yours, I understand where that concern is coming from because like we are representative, but that's what I would say to that concern. And yeah, if you have any other words, just
I think also when we're thinking about, oh, people might stop reading, like, that's on them. That's not like, you can't put like a highlight that's like, please read the whole thing. If you're assuming that they're gonna read the entire thing, and if they stop because they think that every single fact that is true is false, then that's on them. And I don't think like moving the third paragraph to be the second paragraph is impacting anything because it's still there no matter what. We're not taking it out, we're not removing it, it's still there. So if people are gonna read the whole thing, they're gonna understand that either way. And I don't think anybody who reads this letter should or will take away a sense of attack, in my opinion.
I agree. I also think that the people who actually take the time to read through this fully, which also like it will take, I understand, like you're absolutely right, a lot of people just don't read their whole emails. But you know, it does take like, it probably takes like 4 minutes to do this. But I think that the people who will take the time to read through it all are like the people who we are trying to support too. And I think that that's worth considering. And also, going off of what you just said, I think the people who don't believe in like this second paragraph, if they don't think like true. I also just, I don't think that like our sentiment of like solidarity and like these messages have no place at Santa Clara. I don't think that they're gonna impact them anyway, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think that having that first and then reading the factual stuff down will really like, I don't think they'll read that and then read the factual stuff and be like, oh my gosh, this is true. Like, I think it's like, people are, that's, I don't know, that's just what. Okay.
What I'm about to say is highly unfortunate, but in my experience as someone who is the child of 2 Trump supporters and lives in Texas, which is highly Republican, if you did not know that, most people that I know that are Republicans know these are facts and just simply don't care. So,
Yes to everything that has been said, and specifically when we're talking about the people who will finish reading this letter and take the 4 minutes, 2 minutes if you skim, these are not the people who are committing acts of hate on this campus. And I think that when we call attention to acts of hate and to the list of people who are being targeted, not just by Donald Trump the person, but by Donald Trump the ideology that people on this campus are subscribing to, it's important that we, at least like for 5 more sentences, if we can hold on the attention of someone who's about to commit a hate crime for just 5 more sentences, so we can feel like, oh yeah, like I shouldn't do that because I should maybe I should consider why I believe these things, because this is a pretty diverse place to live. Like I do, like my roommate is my roommate bleeds blue. Maybe I should consider that and understand that my beliefs and my ideology don't just exist in like some ether, they exist on this campus. And I'm not saying that we have to get rid of it. I'm suggesting that by moving it just down a little bit, that we hold the attention of the people who we're not going to finish the letter the way that it's written right now.
Can I ask which paragraph? Because I think if we moved this one to the second one, it would make more sense when you read it. But I just want to know if you were thinking of a specific paragraph that you want to move.
I think the first one, students, faculty, and staff, I think that one is the one that should go up, just because, you're stating that these things will happen, and they are happening. There are negative there are negative experiences being had within, a spike within the last week. And I think that it's important that we ground the litany of truths that we're about to say in the community that is being affected. Students, faculty, and staff will inevitably face negative outcomes as a result of the election season, if they haven't already. Why? Because this was an unprecedented election, unprecedented results. From a factual standpoint, X, Y, Z, ABC.
Okay, I agree with that. I thought you wanted us to move our intent part up. I am down to move this one up or a sentence, however you feel about it. Yes,
I think both those paragraphs should be moved up, along with the we acknowledge and this one's together.
Any other comments?
I kind of just, to call back to what Charlie said, I do think really kind of the message, but also kind of a separate thought. Anybody that opens this email with the possibility of committing a hate crime is an unbelievably awful person, and reading this is not going to change that, no matter what order. If you open this email with enough hate in your heart to hurt someone, this is not going to change it. This is an amazing letter. It's not going to change it. So I kind of just feel like, also ASG, we don't have a responsibility to fight off hate crime that's in there. That cannot be our responsibility. We have enough to do. We absolutely can have an opinion and we can hope that it stops. But I kind of think that changing this to kind of cater to those that kind of have that point of view, I think as a student reading it, I would feel more seen if it was the same letter, personally. Just I don't know, if that makes sense.
Can I make a suggestion to maybe make a copy of this and then just move these 2 paragraphs to the beginning and see how it reads? Does that work? Just so we don't move everything around. I just want to make sure that
other things we want to talk about. So, let's.
I think personally.
Oh, and we'll do you.
No, I just want to know who going on this today or Thursday.
Either, up to you guys. Yeah. Liz?
I think personally, I 100% agree with Bea again on her comments and stuff like that. But also at the same time, like I also agree with Liv, and I understand like her side as well. I think I agree and understand both arguments kind of. I think at the end of the day with this letter, we already sent out something like very similar to this. So I think like kind of keeping pace with what we already sent, like this letter would make a lot of sense. I think, I don't know, I think it's a little too soon to quite vote on this. I could be the type of person to just be like, we already sent something out, something else out like this, and we should just vote on it and like get it done with because it's time sensitive and stuff like that. But I also think like, as part of ASG, we all like worked really hard to like get our positions here, and like we want to make sure that we're giving our student body the best work possible that we can possibly give. Not saying that this isn't. I'm just saying that we want to be like, we want everyone in this room to be 100% sure on this letter before we send it out. And I think majority of us are there. I think we just probably need like a couple, like a week to sit on it and make sure that everyone is like 100% there, because I do think that this is a beautiful letter, and I do applaud both you, Erda, and Claire on writing this. And I personally think that this is pretty good. I think I personally would like want to send something very similar to this out, or something like this out. But yeah, I think definitely like voting on it today, I think would be a little too soon, even though this is time sensitive matter. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I think the people who want to read it and want to take something out of this will, and the people who don't want to read it and not want to take anything out of it won't. And I think that's just kind of, we're just trying our best as a student body to do the best we can to like say what we want to say, kind of.
It's my name is Erica.
Oh, Erda, sorry.
Erica. Yes. Also, you can, I don't think there's ever been a resolution or open letter where someone hasn't disagreed with it. You have the opportunity to vote no on it if you think that's right. As I said, I've been in Senate, I was in Senate, I was in Senate for a year and a half, and there are open letters and resolutions that people are going to vote no on. That is your, like you can do that.
Let's, we're gonna focus, I wanna focus just on the order right now, and then we will get back to that. Is yours?
Yeah, mine was based on the order stuff.
Okay, cool, yes, please.
Okay, so, I like understand 100% what everyone is saying, but ultimately I'm gonna have to agree with Arne and Bea about moving those two paragraphs right under the first one. I think like the idea of like, oh, this is gonna stop a hate crime or any of that, like I agree with like that's not what's gonna happen. But I think this letter has like, it's mainly trying to do two things, which is one, acknowledge what students are feeling on campus right now, acknowledge that, and I think the first paragraph does that wonderfully. And then I think moving into those two paragraphs right after, I think would be helpful for the second thing, which is making sure that we help alleviate tension, that we focus on solidarity. I think what Liv was saying earlier about people rolling their eyes is true. I think, like, I'm from Texas as well. Like, I know what it is. Like, and I'm not saying like people who think that this falls, like this letter is not going to apply to them. But I think for people who are bystanders, those two paragraphs will help them, because I think what happens is that people get so like caught up in their own lives and everything that they see a letter like this, and if they kind of just follow this pace right now, they're like, okay, this feels more like, as Bea was saying, like about a political sort of thing. So like, I don't see how this sort of applies to me. I have no problems, blah, blah. I think what we need to do is have those two paragraphs to say like, there are people being affected right now that are feeling tense right now, even if you don't feel that, even if you don't think it's whatever, like to be on the lookout and to really be spatially aware at a time like this. I think that's what the point that Liz and Bea were trying to bring up is, it's not to say like, oh, we're gonna change anyone's minds or any of that, but it's just to say be aware of what's happening, and then we move on to even more lists of like what Bea was saying, like why, even more of why they feel this way, why other people are being so affected because like, I don't know, like saw the results of like just like how people got their information and voted based off that, like it was not good. Like I was looking, I was like, you got your information from TikTok? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Bailey?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this as from 3 perspectives. One is someone who is not in Senate and does not vote on this. 2 is as someone who voted for Kamala, who donated to Kamala, who watched MSNBC on election night and felt an impending sense of dread as the night rolled on. And I say this as someone who cares deeply about ASG, who cares about our legitimacy on campus, and who cares about our ability to make a difference. I think for me, it's not about what is true or not true. It's not about some higher calling to, engage across difference or anything like that. It's about the individuals. It's about the students who are going to see this in their inbox and they're going to read it. It's about the freshman who comes to campus who has 2 parents who voted for Trump who she loves very much. It's about the sophomore girl who was raised Catholic and believes that life begins at conception and believes that she has a responsibility to protect it. It's about the kid who, the Asian American kid who is concerned about what affirmative action and in higher education means for him. And I don't want to say, I think we can all say, this is right or this is wrong, and we can disagree about what is important, what is not, and what values we want to uphold. It's not about any of that. It's about what it's going to do to our role as ASG. And it's, in my opinion, for those kids, those individuals, you put yourself in their shoes, and I think they're going to look at this and think that ASG doesn't care about them. And I think that's a problem. And it's not because they're right and we should just respect whatever opinions they have. It's because it does impact our ability to do our job on any number of things. And so I do worry that, it's true, everything, I read through the letter and I think this is true, this is accurate. It's not about that. It's not about factual basis. It's just about what it's going to do to the community. And I worry about that. And I think, again, I don't vote, I'm not voting on this, but I want you guys to think about it. I want you guys to try to put yourself in the shoes of those characters, right? And think about how they're going to react to it. So, anyway.
What do you think about show of hands in terms of who wants to rearrange pages and stuff? Sure. I'm also, I'm good with rearranging. Okay, yeah, I see. Is this about the rearranging? Or is it about, okay.
I don't know how to say it now, but I would like to say it.
Yeah, yes. Okay. Can we, so we're just gonna basically do show of hands just on the rearranging thing specifically. If you're rearranging, we're gonna move, this is the rearranged version. This is the rearranged version, so those 2 paragraphs are moved up, below the first paragraph, and then the factual stuff is after those 2 paragraphs. So we're just going to do the show of hands, and then that's basically what's going to determine how this is going to read. Okay, so everyone who, and this is for senators, everyone who would like the letter to be rearranged, as in look like this copy, please raise your hand. And then everyone who would like it to stay the same. Okay, we're going to rearrange it. So we're now going to be just looking at this copied version. Yep. Good. Oh, thank you. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, guys. Okay, moving on. That's resolved. Okay.
2 people
want to reply to. I fully respect your opinion and what you said, Bailey, but I think you also need to put yourself in the shoes of who this is affecting. Because if you look at just one group alone, the LGBTQ plus community of young people, which is college-age students, which is our student body, within the first 12 hours of him being found elected president, the suicide rate went up 700% within 12 hours. So I feel like sending it out tonight is even later than when it needed to be sent out.
I just want to kind of also really, I really respect you. I think your opinions are very true to you, your experience. I would like to say though that if you're worried about the people who may have voted for Trump and might feel isolated from this letter, I kind of just want to remind you that I think a lot of us here feel really isolated from our country right now. Like, maybe even probably you included. Like, this letter isn't for people who want to feel validated about their voting. Like, I feel like this letter is directly for students who are struggling with the outcome. And the outcome is that marginalized students feel like we're not seen, heard, or loved. And I kind of have, I don't know, this is just me, I have very little sympathy for those who read this letter and instead of feeling deep sadness for all the marginalized communities, instead can feel like, oh, they're attacking me. And to be honest, like, as Senator at large for DEI, I don't think that their opinions are, or, okay, I don't think that we should be catering to those opinions, I guess. But you are right, we do represent the whole school, and I invite anybody who feels differently to feel that way and say that. But that's just my perspective.
I agree. I think condense it into one sentence. Fundamentally, this letter is all about supporting those who are now going to be suffering because of the results of this election.
Yeah, I think I hear that. I guess my concern is that I think we can, like Tay, what you were talking about, it's a show of support, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. And I think there's a way to do that that doesn't just feel like we're preaching to the choir. Like, I don't want it to be just confirming what I believe and what you guys believe. And I want it to be something that is supportive. And I think when you look at, I mean, I think I'd point to the second paragraph as like the perfect example of that, right? It's true. Like, I read through it and it's true and it's cited and there are sources. But that is, telling people about that doesn't feel like it's achieving the goal of showing support. The second part of that letter, I agree, it does. And if the goal is we want to show support to the student community, I think there's a way to write a letter that does all of those things, that doesn't just speak to the people who already agree with everything we have to say. And I think it's a more effective letter, and I think it means that, I think big picture, my concern is we send this out and there's going to be students who might have considered joining ASG because they care about things, they care about making a difference. Not because they have hate in their heart or anything like that. Most people are good people, right? They believe in the things they believe in, you know, I just want to take a second to like think about, again, I'll give the example because I think it's the best way to like try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. The girl who was raised Catholic, who believes that doesn't, you know, is uncomfortable with the right to abortion because it conflicts with her religious beliefs. And it's not because she's hateful, it's not because she doesn't like women, right? It's because she has convictions. And I worry that she's going to see this letter and she might have joined ASG and now she's not going to. And I think in the long term that does undermine what we try to do every day, the try to change we try to make. It's undermined when there's some portion of caring, good people who turn their backs.
I think the letter is not only to support people, is to also educate those who might not know why people are struggling. So that's why, in my opinion, this paragraph is really important, because some people don't even know. There's international students they're probably their first year in the US. They're not aware of what Trump did in his first presidency. They're not aware of who he is. This is going to help people guide them towards an opinion. And yes, it might be political because it's just the facts. Like,
the bed personally. That's just how it is. And I also think, can I bring up your open letter? Like, how Sarah's open letter last year, people were against it. People are gonna be against something that is considered political. Like, that's just the facts. We can't make everyone happy. It's standing up for what we believe is right, because yes, we're representatives, but we're also students and advocates. And it's just not fair to have people in ASG put aside their personal beliefs and their political beliefs just because they have assumed a role as vice president or senate chair or whatever it is. It's just not, it's not realistic to say someone that assumes this role is not gonna have any of their personal beliefs bleed through their work. If that's a resolution such as mine where we should have contraceptives in Cowell, that could be considered political because pro-life people would see it as like an attack to them. Like, it's just inevitable that people aren't gonna see something you do as political because that's our work as student government. I don't know.
I respect what you're saying, Bailey, but at the same time, nowhere in the letter is it saying that people who don't believe these things can't be in ASG, and it's also not saying that people that are being affected right now are better than people who aren't being affected right now. It's just calling to action that there are people being affected right now, and these are the groups of people. Not to say that there aren't other people that exist at this school, not to exist that one group is better than the other. And I think that if anyone is taking it that way, then they can just read what the sentence says and return to the fact that that's just simply not true.
I just wanted to kind of second that and also highlight something. Tay said that the biggest concern for the LGBT community following this election was that suicide rates went up 700%. And your concern, while valid, is that a pro-lifer may not want to join ASG. And I think as people who represent the entire school community, we have a way bigger responsibility to prioritize the livelihood and well-being over the feelings of someone who may disagree. If they read this and they don't want to join ASG, that's on them. Because ASG is a wonderful place where people can have different views. But if this letter doesn't go out and an LGBTQ student or a Black student or any student feels unseen or takes their life, like I just feel like as an org, that would weigh much heavier on me than someone feeling like sad.
I would say coming from a third point of view, I'm a bit lost in terms of the objective of this letter. If the objective is to provide support for those people and communities who might feel like deemed by the outcome of the election, then I do think that the order in which the paragraphs go is important. I don't think that one, by the order, like one thing doesn't trump over the other. I think if the purpose of sending this out is to provide support for the people who are affected, I think rearranging the paragraphs it's coming from a third view again, I find it less hostile without picking any sides.
So you like the way it's rearranged?
Yeah. Okay. I think it serves the purpose better.
I think the majority of this meeting has now become like us, like kind of debating, like what, like, how do I phrase this? Like, how strongly we think that this should be politicized. And I think we can go like on and on forever and ever because we all have different views on how politicized this should be or not, on like how long this how politicized this letter should be. But I don't think we'll ever completely, unless we kind of adjourn this topic kind of and move it on to the next meeting and talk more about it at the next meeting. But a lot of you guys think that it's time sensitive and stuff like that, so that might not be the greatest solution. I think at this point, just leaving it as it is, especially considering how similar it is to the statement we already sent out, and just voting on it, and whoever says yay, and whoever says nay, just calling it a day, is kind of just the only thing that's actually gonna get anything done at this point. If we're being honest here. Cause we all have different views on this, and the only way that we're actually gonna change this thing is if we adjourn it and move it into another meeting, and personally, I don't know, I just kinda wanna get this done with low-key. It's not that I don't care about it, I just want this to either be out or not out. Like, that's how it is, that's how I feel about it.
A few things to say. I think that this is, I mean, you brought up a good point earlier that this is time sensitive in my opinion. I don't think, and the thing is, like, if we move it to next week, it's just gonna be the same. We're not gonna, it's just gonna be the same arguments again. To be quite honest, like, it's enough review has, I mean, technically we've had a week to kind of go over this. So, I mean, I don't have, I cannot motion to do anything.
I just want to say something.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, go.
okay.
I just want to make sure you saw my hands.
No, I saw that. Okay.
Go.
I would highly recommend voting on it this week. Another option, you can motion to limit the date, and then you can say like however many minutes you'd like to limit it to. I think that is definitely a tool for a reason, so.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Can I also possibly, is it within my first year Senate's powers to motion to vote as well or not?
Oh yeah, you can do anything, yeah, but if you wanted to vote tonight, we have to suspend the Senate rules first. Yes, yes.
I have a couple things to say. One, this is going to be a political open letter, and that's okay. I think as ASG, we can be putting out political letters. I did that with my open letter last year.
We have done this before.
Yeah, we've done this before, it's not new. And big surprise, like, at least with my open letter, like, there wasn't a fire on campus because we had an open letter that was controversial. I also think that the university president has not said anything. Neither has anyone else on our campus. And I think that further highlights the importance of putting out a letter as such that represents students who are hurting, who don't feel seen right now, who might be struggling to go to class, who might be just sad on the day. I mean, it's hard and it's not linear too. Like, you can be fine tomorrow and then next week wake up and be like, oh shoot, this is real and like, we're going to be affected. It's gonna be like something that affects us in the winter quarter. I need you guys to remember, like, we're finishing fall quarter right now. When we come back from break, soon enough, he's gonna be in office and it's gonna be more real and we don't know what's gonna happen. I think this is also good to put out because if he passes something and if he does some effed up thing, then another open letter or something else might be needed from ASG to better support our community. So again, I just think like, I also really like that we kind of like rearranged the paragraphs here. I think the content is fine. I think including the context of everything, again, is going to be like a good precedent for what's to come in the winter. And like if we do need to put another open letter out. So yeah, that's it.
Bailey, can someone from the public speak? What's the?
Sure, yeah, you can invite him to speak.
Would you like to say something?
Sorry. You
I think
know.
that was me.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
I wanted to ask if I could share my opinion, but that's sorted. I wanted to say that I saw a few buzzwords that I did not read this before that resonate with me. I think I'm a person of color. I believe myself to be Muslim. I am a freshman. I'm an immigrant. So I check a lot of those boxes. I probably know the least about American politics of anyone in this room. But what that gives me is an unbiased opinion on this election, I believe, because I came into the country about 3 months back. What I wanted to say was that Trump has been elected, he's president-elect now. Even though people here do not agree with what Trump does, says, whatever, Trump is going to represent you on the global scale, on stage. Why? Because that's how democracy works. He is the American president and he represents the US on a global scale. I might be wrong, I told you guys, cut me some slack, I don't know about American politics, but I think there should be a small article, but whatever, because Trump cannot be entirely different from anyone in this room, because there's no way you disagree with 100% of what Trump does, right? So why not have something where it does not create sort of a polarizing environment in the minds of the people that read this? Because again, I'm saying this, I just want to contribute to this meeting, my opinion, because I think I have an unbiased opinion, but yes, I think this is a little bit, it's something that I would not have expected when I see the heading of what this is.
Wait, what's your name?
I'm Abu, A-B-U.
Yeah, I also have a clarifying question. Yes. When you mean that it's not entirely what you were expecting, do you mean by the content? Do you mean that it came from ASG? Do you mean that it essentially is not in favor of the current president or of Trump?
No, I think it can be not in favor of whoever it is, but personally, I did not think it would be this bold. Bold is the word I can come up with. I just read like a small parts of it when it was presented here, so bold is what I would say. I just thought it was a little bit overwhelming when I saw some of the words in red.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. First, I'd like to say that you kind of were very disrespectful to Liz, who's a senator, and in the Senate, that means something. Furthermore, I appreciate your opinion. I would like to say that everyone in here acknowledges that Donald Trump won, like we're aware. No one is trying to storm the Capitol. No one is trying to do anything. We're always trying to survive, and this letter is that. This is trying to get people who feel unheard and unloved and unsupported by what the administration is going to do. And also, I would like to state that I think one issue in our country is people who are uneducated about a subject speaking up about a subject in such direct terms. And I would like to highlight that you said you were uneducated about this and you didn't do that. And I would love to know what the thought process was. I would love to know more of why you think that this letter would only further polarize when I think the biggest polarizing thing that has happened this year is Donald Trump being elected. Any polarization that happens as a cause of this letter has already been done. Yeah, please.
Okay. Liz,
Wait,
first.
1 second. Do you have something?
You're a member of the public, you're under no obligation to respond. If you want to respond, you can. But senators really can't pressure people in the public to answer questions. It's not totally your choice.
Okay, I would want to say this. I do not know what the rules and regulations of this is, but Liz, if I was rude to you, I'm very sorry.
No, it's alright.
I did not mean anything
No, it's alright.
about that. Again, I'm saying, I did say that I was uneducated on this, but again, I'm not voting on this. The senators are going to, I believe they are going to do whatever. I'm not sure about that. I just came here, I saw what that was. I just wanted to tell everyone what because the Senate is also representing me, and I just wanted to give you a small part of the community, what they feel about this, because I might not be very well versed about this, but this is what I think, and the Senate represents me, so.
Are you an international student? Okay, so I wrote this letter. I'm an international student myself. I'm not American. I get where you're coming from, like being in the U.S. for the first time and everything is confusing. I would encourage you to read through the entire letter. We do add a lot of links that might be educative if you want to continue looking into that. And we kind of list everything on why we're feeling this way and how we can support the students. I do understand what you said about Donald Trump is going to represent us on a bigger scale in like the entire world, but I guess what we're trying to talk about is how this is going to affect members in our community. We all know that he is going to become president in January. It's more so just how we feel right now versus, it's more so just how we feel right now and emotionally what can we do about this, and there are resources that students can go to. So I see you and I hear you, but I also think that this is very important to people, even people like us, international students. We are going to be affected by this in some way or another. So I think it's also important for those people to be more aware of their rights, how we're going to go forward, what this means for us as well. So I think if there's a part in it in which it says even if you don't believe you'll be affected, you will. And I think it should resonate with us international students in the fact that even though we aren't American, we will feel it in some way, so it's better to be informed on what's happening and what is going to happen. But I hear you, and thank you for speaking.
Sarah. First of all, thank you so much for speaking and voicing your opinion. Senators, I also really appreciate everyone's opinion. Respectfully, if anyone has a different opinion that no one has covered, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I personally think that we should after I finish my thought, we can go. But I just think that we're going in circles. We're not. I just think that we should be more productive with our time, and that maybe after Sophia or Liz or whoever has a different opinion wants to speak, we can go on ways that we can support our student body by including more resources at the bottom. And then if someone wants to fund standing rules, we can do that. I just want to stay on track so we can move on.
Okay, so
You go.
in light of what Sarah just said, let's proceed, but with all of that.
Really quickly, not my opinion or a different opinion, but just for anyone who doesn't already follow the ASG Instagram, in case you haven't seen it, I just want you to know that this statement was on our Instagram for a period of time the other day. So I just want everyone to know that there have been students in our community who have seen it, and while I'm not someone who can come from an entirely unbiased perspective, I do want you all to know that it actually did reach a lot of people, and it had a very positive impact from what I was told and what I was told on the Instagram. So I just want you all to know while you're voting that while it has not officially been sent out to the student body, before I was made aware that it should not be posted on ASG until the statement was passed, it was, and people have seen it. So I just want you all to know that moving forward.
Yes. And people would have, people would have seen it otherwise too, so it's not like your fault.
Yeah, I don't want to make it too long. I think it's just, it's like, I agree we have to get this out now, sooner than later. And lives are at stake here. You mentioned the suicide rates and all that. It's, again, we've been rehashing and talking about people's fundamental rights. The Jesuit idea is cura personalis, right? Care for the person, care for the body, care for the whole person. And I think, of course, by sharing this letter with the student body, we address those concerns people have about their bodies, about their lives, about their free will, any of that sort of thing. And I think I guess it was nice we moved things around. I raised my hand for that because I guess just to kind of start off kind of generally, hey, we're just doing this because for everyone in the community we want to make sure we are a community. It's Santa Clara, so I don't know, I just wanted to say that. I think at the end of the day, we want to not prioritize, we want to make sure there's voices that are really afraid for their lives are being heard, so.
I think I kind of agree with Sarah about how we have been kind of like running in circles for the last like 30 minutes or so about like this and stuff like that, and not really like getting anywhere necessarily too productive. So I think personally, like, if we could potentially just work on adding resources at the bottom, coming back and voting on this next time so we don't have to like go through any bylaws and stuff like that, and also for the sake of time, and then after adding resources, potentially motioning to adjourn the meeting, I think that would be the best use of all our time potentially.
I'd like to just reiterate that if we wait a week, people are gonna think about this for a week, and I can almost guarantee we're gonna get in the Williman room next Thursday, and we're gonna talk about this for another 2 hours. And I do understand what you're saying. I just wanna like shed some light on it, also my opinion.
I understand.
I don't think that any substantive change will be made to the letter within the next week that will outweigh the benefit of sending it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you for saying that.
Motion to suspend.
Second. Before we suspend the standing rules,
Yeah.
can I just note to me, because I know a lot of people are new, I just want you to understand what the standing rules are.
Yes, please.
This is solely my role as Chief Justice. Standing rules are the rules of the Senate, and the general rule is that it needs to wait a week. Things need to wait a week before they get introduced 1 week, and then they can only be voted on the next week. That's the general rule. Obviously, the reason is because we want people to be able to look over the things we write and provide feedback and have that kind of discussion and back and forth and all that to improve things. That's the idea. Obviously, it's within your role as senators. If you choose to suspend standing rules, you have that option. Just want to highlight that it is don't think of it as a standard thing. It's an extraordinary action. Just understand the weight of that when you're deciding. That's all.
Also, just directing this to the, like, we never asked you. You guys were the one who wrote it. What did you want to do with this? What were your hopes for this letter?
I think I can go first. I was watching the results that evening, and I texted and I said I think we really need to consider about what our next step will be in the case. Honestly, I said before things went, in my opinion, south, I said like it was like a general statement either way. It's a huge thing that happens. I think that it's absolutely absurd that like the university hasn't said anything about it, because even if Congress elected, I would have expected some sort of a something that like this massive thing in our country just happened, and I think for there to be no like acknowledgement of that. I mean, they put on a few like events, but I'm gonna be honest, I think they were a bit wimpy, and like I think that the university could have done a lot better. Because that was like, I think for me that's like part of this is like kind of picking up the university slack and just recognizing that like this is a thing that happened. Because I feel like a lot of students, at least I've been hearing, like people are upset that they feel like things are just proceeding like normal, and there was no acknowledgement of like this, again, like I said, like massive thing that happened. So that was like my initial goal, was just like to recognize this thing. Secondly, once the specific result came out, I think for me it was just like recognizing the fact that a lot of communities that he has like very explicitly targeted are represented here at Santa Clara. I'm a member of some of those communities. I am not a member of other of those communities. And that same goes for every student. Some students are members of those communities, others are not. And so I guess like I wanted to recognize like how, the variety of students might be feeling and likely were feeling. I mean, basically everyone that I've talked to is feeling pretty similar, although I surround myself with people that are Trump supporters, so like, that's like, I will admit, like, I'm limited in that sense. So yeah, I think like one, sorry, I'm going on too long. Recognition, 2, sort of context, and 3, solidarity and resources. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, as someone who, first of all, is a woman, someone who is not American, someone who's almost all their relatives are immigrants, I wanted to write something that I would want to read after this election. I wanted to be the statement that I would have wanted from the university or the student government if I was not in this position.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I think that was just a reminder. I know I've been yapping the whole time. I'm really sorry. Whenever we come to one of these once a month, I do not have a vote. I don't have a vote. So I think that for all the senators, that context is very important for what the purpose and intent of this letter is. Because I didn't have that context when I first spoke, so I'm glad that I have it now.
Thank you.
That I interpreted as this is a message. This is gonna sound so bad, but I will fix it. I interpreted it that this is a message, like, for all of the community, and in a way that it is, but I think that you provided context. And so, if that's what you guys wanted and that was your intent, and this is like this is actualizing your intent in writing this letter, I don't even think you need to change the order, because if your intent is clear in the first version.
Thank you. I do think the order change though was a good point, and everyone agreed, so thank you. Renee?
Motion to suspend standards.
Second.
Second.
Motion from Arne, second from Leo.
Motion to vote?
Second. What was the original motion?
No, you can't, wait, all those in favor of suspending the standing rules? No,
Sorry, I'm
it's okay, no, I know. All those in favor of suspending the standing rules, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
Motion to vote.
Second.
Before we vote, we need to change that last part to make sure it's like good.
Yeah, Bailey, is that it?
We can't vote.
It's just